Hey, boys and girls, we're back with another episode of Chopping It Up with ... And this time I'm with Jeffrey Dwayne Higginson, as his mama probably calls him, but I just call him Big Higgy. He is an executive in our space, been in it for probably at least 15 years now. Coming to us live and in color from one of my favorite hotels, a hotel you and I have shared many incentive trips at, the Grand Wailea. So welcome to the show, Jeff.
Excited to be with you, Randy. It's great to be here and looking forward to this.
So are you there with a team, or you're just there with the family having a vacation?
I'm here with one of my dear friends who's in our space, who is a manufacturer for many of the companies out there. We've been friends for many years, and it's become a little tradition to come over here, and it's such a marvelous place. So I'm just with him and another friend and our wives, and we're having a wonderful time.
Well, good for you guys. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii since before the pandemic, so I'm definitely overdue for a visit there.
It's amazing. I first came here 20 years ago. It was the first time I arrived here, and this place is one of the only places in the world where I can really collect myself, really calm down. It's beautiful. It's warm. The people are warm. It's an environment that really, I've been everywhere. That's like none other. And I'm just having a great time. It's truly a great, special place for me.
And I want to go out on a limb here and say we're recording this on March 13th. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I bet the weather is probably a little better there than it is in Utah right now.
we have been, baseball season was supposed to start 2 weeks ago. There hasn't been a game played in the state. The fields are still covered with snow. We need the water. The West needs the water, but it has been cold and dark for a long time. So I'm looking out over that ocean. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I was thinking where to start with this. And when we met, when you first joined the industry of network marketing, you came from sales. And you were running like sales teams at Ford dealerships, and got introduced to our business. And of course, you and I have this lovely, amazing relationship, which has had some real highs and lows, right? We had times we were duking it out, and we need to talk about some of those, because I really believe you learned stuff from me about the field, and I learned stuff from you about how the company has to operate. And I think we created an amazing synergy there. But what was it like for you coming from running these salesmen where we don't really have to have anything to do with duplication, right? You're just, hey, people are coming on the lot. You need to sell them a pickup truck before they leave, to all of the crazy intricacies and nuances of team building and leadership and duplication. So what was that like for you?
Well, it was when I think back on that, coming from the automotive world and selling a vehicle for $80,000 or $90,000 or $50,000 to someone who came there looking, if you will, came there with an idea that maybe that would be something they wanted to do. It was interesting because I learned all kinds of people. I remember one day late in the afternoon, a guy came out on the lot, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, geez, it's been a long day. I want to go home. I'm tired. I want to be done. And this was a guy that got out of an old truck and looked a little dirty and older. And in the business, you get people coming and dreaming about cars and kicking tires and wasted a lot of time. And I thought, not tonight. So I thought, I'm going to go out and get him off the lot and be done. And I walked out there and he looked at me and he said, what do you have to have for this truck? And I said, well, we can walk inside and look at it. We're about ready to close. But I can, give you a quick price and you can think about it. He says, well, really, I really like this truck. If you could just kind of tell me. And we walked around the side of the truck, and on the sticker of the window was the truck. It was a brand new truck. And I think it was like $74,000. And I said, well, that's the list price. He says, I'll take that. And I went, whoa, to myself, I went, you got to be kidding. I said, well, no, I can get you a little better deal. He says, I can't take it tonight, but I want to leave you a check for it. And I'll be back in the morning to pick it up. And I said, well, let me go in and get you a little better price. He says, no, that's the price there. That's the fair price. That's reasonable for me. I'll pay for that. If you can just collect the taxes on that and let me know what that is, I'll leave the check with you and be back tomorrow. Well, I went from that experience thinking, here I judged a person who I didn't think had a dollar to his name, who I thought was wasting time, leaving me a check that night. And here's what I learned early in that business that translates to network marketing or direct sales or the profession we all love, is that you cannot judge anyone. I learned early, there is no way I would ever judge another person by the looks of them, by what they might be dressed in, by how they might pull up to a meeting in a car, by how their hair looks, ever again, because I saw that day that what matters is the ability to take time with people. And that translated into a sale, and it translated into a learning experience for me that I've tried to harbor for my entire life. And no matter what the business of network marketing, direct sales does, whenever someone comes forward, my mind goes to, you know what? This can be done. Their dream can be fulfilled. And so I came into this business, and Randy, I can't tell people how I met you because it probably is not appropriate for this type of a show. But I'll never forget my first meeting with you in Utah and what you said to me, to this guy coming from a little town in Utah, to meeting a guy from Miami, Florida, who'd made all kinds of money in the profession. And
of course, you have to tell the story now, or I'll be getting emails for the next 20 years of my life. What's the secret dirt that Higginson was afraid to say on the show? So just get it out there.
All right. Well, good, because you can edit this if you have to. But I remember sitting in
no edits. I'm going on record right now. I'm not going to edit this.
You leaned across the table. We were in Sandy, Utah. You were in a purplish suit. You looked like $1 million. You looked like an athlete. I didn't know a thing about you. I'd never researched you. You just came in. But you were supposed to be this big name. And so it was a big meeting, and we got ready. And you leaned across the table and you said, can you handle me bringing in 30,000? And I about hit the floor. I about hit the floor. And you were serious. And you leaned back in your chair.
I forgot all about this. Thank God you brought up this story.
No, whatever you want. And I looked back and I said, well, absolutely we can. And that was the way you and I met. And it was one of the most interesting first time. If you could have said, I would have more expected a missile to hit that desk than have you say that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, because just backstory. So Eric is the one. So I'm talking to Eric who was my sponsor in there, and at Art's mastermind event. And he says, what do what's going on with you? I say, I'm actually looking for a company to join. I've been 7 years out of the field. I'd gone, my last company had closed shop. They said, hey, one of the founders is split off. He's starting his own company. We don't have enough money. You can still keep buying the products. There's no more commission checks though. We're done as a MLM company. So I had so much psychic damage. I mean, there's people to this day, that's 20 some years ago, still wouldn't return my phone call because they hold me responsible that company went out of business, right? So I got like 7 years. I said, okay, so I'm going to this event. There's always like 80, 90 different companies there. It's a no recruiting event. It's safe, so nobody's pitching people. But I'm going with the idea. I'm going to be looking. I'm going to find some company here because I'm the shoemaker with no shoes. I'm training all these guys how to make walk-away residual income, and I'm not getting walk-away residual income. So I tell him that, and he says, well, I'm checking out this deal in Utah. And I say, is this another goddamn Mormon deal? And he says, yes, what can I tell you? These Mormons, they know how to do network marketing. And I said, and so we joke. I'm like, yeah, they all have 10 kids. So, if you just sponsor your kids, you go diamond in whatever company you join. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out there. But I'm thinking at this point, it's like, I know from my past experience, I'm going to sponsor gay people, and they're going to know other gay people, and they're going to duplicate, and I will have some strong, powerful lines of gay people. And how are these Mormons going to react to this? So that's why I asked you that question.
Well, it blew me away. To be honest with you, I mean, I lived in a bubble. I mean, I came from a small town in Utah, lived in a bubble, and I met people like you and Ann Feinstein, and the list goes on and on and on. And it was all kinds of different places in life. I'm thankful every day that you introduced me to all of those good people. I just didn't know many people I didn't know. I don't know that I'd ever met a Jewish person. I'm just speaking real. I remember the first time I got my first business trip was to Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm coming from an all kind of white little town in Utah. And here comes a good friend of mine. Cedric Penn was his name, and he picks me up. He picks me up, and all of a sudden this car pulls up to the curb, and it's high and it lowers down, and I open the door, and this guy jumps out and puts me in the front seat, and I'm in a car with brothers full, and it's got gold and everything, and it bounces a little bit, and Cedric's leaned way back, and here I am, and they take me to Floyd's of Atlanta, and they get me out of the car, and they say, go in and pick you any pair of shoes you want. Pick any pair you want. I walk in this store, and I mean, I'd wore Florsheim's before this. I'm out there, and I walk in, and all of the shoes, the cheapest shoe in there was $875. I about fell over. And I says, well, I can't do this. I can't buy a pair of shoes. And I'm with all of these guys, right? I've never been in an environment like that. And they were unbelievable. And I went in, and he forced me to pick a pair. So I picked the cheapest shoes. I still have them today. They still mean everything to me today, because there was a mind change that happened for me that day, that moment, that, wait a minute, I'm worthy of these. Now, I couldn't probably afford them myself at that time in my life, but it let me see what was out there. And then from there, he took me to a dinner, and I'm on my knees, and we're praying before the dinner on a rug, and we're eating with our hands. And I thought, I looked around and thought, what has happened to me? It's just amazing the things that the profession has brought me. But that one of you, the friend, well, you and I could go through so many names, Randy, that have changed my life forever. And I've learned, you and I've had long discussions on this stuff, and I've learned so much about it. And what a beautiful picture, colorful picture that our profession gives us.
It's so amazing. I remember at one of our conventions, I was standing next to Billy Looper, and there was the Asian team to our right. And he said, Randy, look at that. That is the team from Vietnam. Do you remember when we used to be at war with Vietnam? And now we're backstage together. And, you know, you did conventions, right? We did. The Diamonds would come in carrying the flags of our country. So we were there, the U.S. delegation with all of the Diamonds. And then here was the the Vietnamese delegation with 6 or 7 or 8 different Diamonds. And Billy was like, just, you remember? Because he's same age as me. We're like 2 weeks apart. And yeah, we grew up the formative years of our life. We were at war with Vietnam. And yeah, I mean, I've talked about this on some of these other chopping it ups. I loved my team stuff because we'd have the Muslims and we'd have the Jews and we'd have the Mormons and we'd have just everything, every, rainbow color under the sun. That's something. It's really, just locked in our profession, and you just don't see that in a lot of other professions.
You don't, and you actually see a very divisive environment outside of this. As I have sat on some boards with companies not in our profession and listened to some of the conversations, some of the things that come out, the things that people can't have in their company. Well, we don't want to bring any type of attention here. We don't want in this profession, Randy, you're right. It excludes it. It's I've always said, our good friend over in Russia, Vladimir Astashov over there, he and I talk every other day, and we have for 15 years. And I've always said, and he's always said, if you and I were running these countries, we would find a way to make this a great place to live, because the people of Russia are some of the best I've ever been with. The people of Ukraine, all of these countries, the US, I mean, wherever we go, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this Russian invasion, like you, I mean, it just breaks my heart. I've been at least 20 times to Ukraine. I've been at least 30 times to Russia. I've been to Kazakhstan and all of the stans, most of them. And just that area of the world. And the people are, everywhere. You just reckon, talking about the religions and the thing. I remember when I had the team in Indonesia, and I was a little nervous about going there, right? There's countries where, that's the largest Islamic country in the world, population-wise. And there are fundamentalist Islam who think gay people like me should be thrown off of rooftops. And, this was in the time after the Gulf War had started. There was a lot of anti-Americanism. I'm like, geez, I don't know, going to Indonesia and Malaysia, and and then I was backstage, and I had a lady on my team who was kind of I always train that you should hire, you select an ambassador for your team who picks up the guest speaker and becomes their concierge for the weekend, and they get them to the hotel and make sure they're checked in and all this stuff. So they had selected a woman to do this, who was a young Islamic woman who wore a burqa, the whole thing. And so how our events are. I had Ricky Martin rocking out in the arena. There was thousands of people, and the music was pumping. Even the walls in the green room were shaking. And she was in there jamming along with Ricky Martin. She Bangs was the song. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I just realized there's such commonality among people, and music exposes that. That's such a universal language. And what we saw in our business, it's so, the cultural stuff changes, but people's desire to live their dreams, to achieve challenges, take care of their loved ones. This is the stuff, it just transcends every nationality, every ethnicity, every religion, every sexuality, everything.
I agree with you. I remember doing a world tour in the company you and I are with, and I went to Israel, and we had a big event there, and then I went over from there to Malaysia. Well, because I had been in Israel coming to Malaysia, they weren't going to allow me to come in.
You let them stamp your passport?
Not knowing, right? Remember,
rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake. Absolutely.
Yep.
So I remember having to leave and then coming back and learning from that experience and never letting that happen again, when understanding all that stuff. But I Randy, I love the fact that we opened with this, because what matters to me more than anything about this profession that we really all love is that people like you and I have dreams every day in every part of the world. And it's scary sometimes. I remember going to Russia, and I remember having a note slipped under my door saying, "Why didn't you come outside today?" And I go into a panic thinking, I called Vladimir and said, "Did you come to the hotel?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, I got this note." He said, "Let me send security down. I'll make sure, you're covered." And I wondered why, I remember being in a hotel in Malaysia, being moved in the night by our GM. Had nothing to do with me or anything there, but because of something going on within their culture and protests happening, it became unsafe. I remember coming back to that place in Russia that night, kind of nervous, and there was a Russian man sitting there at my door. And I remember looking at him thinking, get the card in the door and get the door locked quick. And I did, and I immediately called, Vladimir, and of course they didn't inform me that they had hired a security guard to sit outside the door. And so you learn all of these things. There's real things. You talk about this Russia-Ukraine thing. It's heartbreaking, for both people to be a part of this, because here we have families, intertwined relationships, friends, business at big levels that because of whatever power, greed, whatever you want to call it, changes it. And we go sometimes now where we wonder about being kidnapped. We go places where we had, and so there is evil out there, right? There is evil out there. But at the same time, this profession finds a way to bring in the good people with dreams, the people that wanted to just have a better life for their family and for their kids.
Yeah, one of the things that I do now that I didn't do at the beginning is to teach my top leaders about maintaining some secrecy about their finances and their personal and their family and loved ones. We just, I remember the first time I went to El Salvador, and I was wearing a probably $4,000 watch, and I rolled down the car, and I had my arm outside, and my friend was like, "Are you crazy? Get that arm in the car. Take off that watch." People have no idea. The street crime in El Salvador is, in San Salvador, it's just, it's so horrific. My friend there, he was in the convenience store. A guy runs up to him with a gun, gets his car key, steals his car. He goes to the police station. I need to report a stolen car. And they're like, get the hell out of here. What your car is gone. He's like, well, I want to report it in case it gets, get the hell out of here. There's nobody reporting any cars. There's no car coming back. You will never see that car again. We're not going to waste our time filling out a report. You know, when I first started going to Russia, I had 6 bodyguards with Uzis, and I needed them. So it's like, you know, back in the day, we were on stage waving our checks, talking about how much money we made. But the world's a very different place today. And particularly there's areas of the world where you just, it's stupid to do that. You know, I bought you Tumi luggage for Christmas one year, all the corporate team, because I love, it's the finest luggage, whatever. I also keep a Travel Pro rollerboard for when there's certain countries I go to. You just shouldn't carry a Tumi luggage. You should use a Travel Pro, right? It's that same kind of quality, but without the brand or the cachet or whatever, and it just doesn't make you a target. And I've stopped, you know, I haven't talked about income for at least 8 years. You know, you've heard some of the earlier shows. We're really finding that just talking about getting debt free is much more effective anyway. But that was another, you know, reason, you know, when I look at my earlier stuff, my YouTube channel and my social media, and I was selling the dream and all of the exotic cars and the bling bling and the whatever. And, you know, I just learned, like, when people see a post from me now and it says, you know, here is my view outside the window in Fiji today, I've already left Fiji. I put that the day after I leave because, you know, I've attracted 7 stalkers over the course of my life. A couple who were really serious stalkers, you know, and we're going to areas of the world where kidnapping really is an issue that you know, we and, you know, I always joke with my family, I'm the only one with money. Okay. If I get kidnapped and they say, we're holding Randy, and if you don't send us $5 million, we're going to kill him. They don't have any money to send them. And they're probably thinking, well, I wonder how much Randy left me in his will anyway. So probably like, okay, you can keep him, you know, let us know when you kill him so we can call the lawyer and get the will read.
Well, that's what made me buy a life insurance policy on you after my trip to Russia. No, I'm just teasing, but I will tell you,
Yeah.
I remember my first trip to Russia with you, and I got the bill and I signed off on the event, and there was a bill, an invoice for heavy security. And so I called over and I said, you know, Vladimir, what, you know, this is extensive. This is a huge amount of this event. What's happening? He says, Randy's coming to town. And I said, really, it's an issue. And he said, Jeff, it's going to be an issue. I've had people contacting the office. We've had people come here. We've had notes sent to us and all of this stuff. So I said, okay, let's make sure we're safe. And he says, you'll be picked up too, and some security will be with you. And that was my first trip with you. And I got picked up. And then I'm sitting in a van with all of these guys and they're armed. And I'm going, I've seen too many movies. Am I really going to the right place? And then I get there and I'm ahead of you and I recognize the phenomenon regarding Randy Gage coming to Moscow. And people are crazy. And I looked at Vladimir and I said, I had no idea. And that's back in the days where you wore the expensive watches. I think I ended up buying you one for $60,000 in some event we did. And I mean, I knew your watch world, right? And I'm going, this guy better get out of this country safe. And you were with security. And so why we're, you know, gone down this road a little bit, but it's true. It's the profession brings the best of the best people, but we live in a world where all that does exist. And you just never know. And in your case, there were just people that wanted to be with you and to tackle you and grab you and kiss you. all those things, but you never know. So yeah, I remember that bill was pretty extensive. You cost us a lot of money as you travel the world.
It's like when I go to places like Turkey, I remember I told Dr. Hetty, who's the guy who brought me there, I'm like, dude, I got this security. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'2", I'm carry some muscle a little bit. I'm like, I look like a tiny child compared to this security detail. The shortest guy was like 6'4". They got their neck tattoos. They're all special force commandos, used to be in the special forces. And I'm like, oh, he's like, hey, it's dangerous here. We need these people. So yeah, there is, there is that side. But the thing for leaders is they got to know they probably don't need. Well, I'm not even going to say that. There's just places in the world you go where you do need that kind of security. But even when you don't go there, people have to become more mindful about the crap they're putting on social media, and that makes them like, my sister I'd get messages from her. She's like, I'm getting these connect requests on Facebook from people who say they know you, and I don't know them, and I don't want to accept them. How do they know I'm your sister? And I realized, okay, I need to take off that section where it lists who my relatives are, because it was creeping her out that people were, contacting her.
Yeah, that's really true. And social media, and like anywhere I go, I don't post anything while I'm there. I'm never posting in country, I think there's certain times we just can't make rookie mistakes out there. And to leaders that are new at this and taking their first international trip or looking at this around the world, embrace it, but recognize that, look, we live in a world, sadly, that has changed, and there are people out there looking to do bad things and to find ways to get money the cheap way. We had a policy that we would never pay a ransom for any executive in the company or person in our company, because we felt that just brought on a greater attention for bad people to do that. So yeah, we had insurance policies, obviously, to help spouses and whatnot, but we did not have or would never pay a ransom. I remember years ago, a couple missionaries from my church in Russia, and there's a movie on it, were held, and they wanted ransom. And the church, if the church decided to pay ransom on two missionaries, let me tell you, with 75, 80,000 missionaries around the world, young men and and women in all these countries, you would turn into a total devastation. And so, yeah, no rookie mistakes, know your surroundings, know your people, live the humble zone a little bit as you're going out, and the bling and all those things that we thought at one time mattered. Look sharp when you get on stage, present the best you can, be prepared, take the time, understand the culture, make a difference in people's lives, inspire people and all that, and then get out of there. And as you do, you make friends, and even when we make good friends, we have to know the circumstances around our friends. And so there were a lot of things we implemented in our company, and training pieces that we ended up going in twos a lot, and we just felt that was a safe thing to do. So it's something we have to be careful of out there for sure.
Yeah, like the politics you mentioned when you went to Israel. So for people who don't know, Israel is one of those countries. They know how they are, their people are persecuted around the world. So you can ask them; they will give you your entrance stamp on a separate piece of paper, which is not in your passport. So then when you go, because literally if you go, I don't know if it's still the same in 2023, but the last time I was there, if you just like happened to you, if they looked in your passport and you had a stamp from Israel, they're like, turn your ass around and get out of here. We ain't letting no Jews in this country. That's just the way it was. And even the other way, because then when I go to Israel, I've got Malaysia and Indonesia and those places in my passport. and you get, I mean, I went through a 3.5 hour entrance video, interview with the Mossad because I had all these, is Arabic
Stamps.
country passports in my, stamps in my passport.
Yeah, no question. And you said that, I remember being, because of that, completely strip searched in Israel, and they're taking this stuff very serious because of that unrest, that we have out there in the world. And I come back to this very point about the profession that we are a part of, is that there really is goodness. Now, there are junkies out there. If I had $1 for every time a person come in and said, I'm going to bring this, and this, give me this, I'd be out of the profession and retired. Okay, that exists. There's no question. We got to be smart about that. But from a company side, we got to be smart about that. I remember, Randy, and I got to share this because I remember saying to you, listen, we will give you a position that's built out. And all you got to do is manage these people, and the check's significant. The significance of the check was astronomical, but it was a thought process, and it was one that I learned something that day that changed me forever, honestly, in the business. My intent was good. It was that we were protecting one of our big leaders. We were protecting what we thought was a real asset to us. And we were in turn getting some really great training. And I remember you said something. He said, gosh, I appreciate that. You were very nice, man. It's, that would be a significant increase to me in all those things. But you said something that I will never forget. And it was, if I did that, I could never share my beliefs again, because I've never taken a deal. I've never taken a deal in terms of organizational money or being put in front of somebody coming down. I'm really okay. I appreciate it, but I'm going to build it the way I build it because I believe that's what you do. And that's what I instruct everybody in my organization to do. And I thought for a second, I sat back and I went, wow, this guy is different. And this is a tribute to you. I don't know if you hung that carrot amongst, 100 people, how many of them would bit that carrot and took that deal and then stood up in front of organizations and said, this is how this business is built. This is what happens. This is the good, the bad, the ugly with it. This is how difficult it can be. Look at how many people rejected the opportunity. Look, all those things. And so for me, I feel like, and I thank you and some others in this, from the day I got in the profession. I mean, here's a guy that would tell me at an event, do you have a approval to play this music? I mean, this is you, Randy. This is, are we okay to play this music at an event? And at first I wanted to put you in a headlock and, break your neck, because I'm sitting here trying to do this. And my mind never went with getting a license for this. But when I think about it and what that taught me that day, we just lost one of the greats in our profession, in Nathan Rex here in Utah. I think about people like him. I think about people like you, and there's others as well. But it's what this profession is really, truly about, and how we all should live it, and how it should be remembered. When people out there look at the ugly in network marketing or direct sales, they can't look at me and tell me it's ugly, because I watched a person build an organization, significant organization, which was paid significant checks because he not only built it and recruited them and brought them in and created customers and built a great business, but he did it with true and pure integrity. And that cannot be said for a lot of people today. I see people who I know, because I sit with other companies, sitting at the top of their companies, Randy, sitting at the top of their companies, speaking, and I know that story isn't real.
Yeah.
Now, the people don't, but I do. Now, a company might look at a person like that, like I did, and said, hey, how can we enhance this asset, this person that we really think is making a difference for our company? He does it the right way. How do we help make that better? And maybe that's the reasoning, because I think I went into that innocently. I don't think I went in that looking at the other several 100,000 people being unfair. I looked at it saying, hey, how can I help the better, several 100,000 people or whatever it was, to have someone really come in and be able to do that. But you taught me that it doesn't work that way, because
Well, for sure, your heart was in the right place and you were doing it for the right reason. The other thing I would say in your defense is you probably learned that at the DSA from other companies, because that's what they do. And you probably had lunch at some DSA convention. They say, yeah, find some heavy hitter and put them at the top and give them a cooked leg and promise you'll put everybody underneath them, and then you're going to lock them up, right? There's just so much of that shit going on in our profession.
Yeah, and they would say that. Well, what did you have to do to lock Randy up? Well, what'd you have to do to lock Randy up? Well, what'd you have to do to lock Randy up? What'd you have to do to lock Ann up? What'd you have to do to lock whoever up, right? Of the top leadership in the company. And it plays on you, and being new in the profession and not having experienced a lot of things, I kept wondering, hey, have we protected the asset? But that's where companies make the biggest mistake, because let me tell you what it affects. You essentially put a person into retirement. You really do. Even though you wouldn't have normally, that they're going, hey, you know what? I just got another $150,000 a month in my check. I just got to show up at these events, do a call here, a Zoom here, whatever. I'm going to wave the flag. I'm going to wave it high. But you know what? The things that I've taught that really brought me here, I'm not doing anymore. And so you get a company now that becomes what you look at as a stagnant, failed entity. And this happens all the time. We can count on, two sets of hands, the real billion-dollar companies that were built infrastructurally right with the right mentality, right? And then all of the hundreds of thousands that came in later. And I look at companies that have been in the business 10 years. Some of the best companies that are yet to be seen have been around 10, 15 years. They're doing it right. But what now they've got to do is be able to create all of what they believe into really a package story that really works, right? That really is told. Most never tell it right. Most really, you look at a lot of companies out there, and we talk about this all of the time in the executive world. What is the story? What is Randy Gage saying about us? What is his story about this company that he builds with? And so, we as corporate, and I don't know the audience of corporate people that are watching this. I do know that some are watching this segment that were invited to watch this segment.
Yeah, let me tell you, I will interrupt you to say a word is getting out, because I can tell you at least 7 to 10 top leaders who have DM'd me at some point and said, oh my God, that chopping it up you did with so-and-so, I just sent it to my CEO, or I just sent it to our board of directors, or I just sent it to our founder, or I just sent it to our VP of sales, and say, you gotta watch this, so I think we are getting some, and
I'll tell you this.
You told me that you sent it to people, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you that it would be a mandate in my company that it's watched weekly. And I would set aside 3 hours, and they would go in, and I'd put it on the big screen, and they would write things down. And it wouldn't just be sales guys, it would be marketing guys, it'd be ops guys, it'd be legal guys, it'd be everything, because we're listening from people that have done it all over the world at a high level, people that do it right. When I look at the cast of people that you've brought on this, and I think I'm into this 6. I think there's been 6. I can't remember for sure what it is, but as I've looked at them and researched them, These aren't people that that you would consider junkies by any step of the imagination. These are people that are doing real things in our space. And so I would say, you know, if you're a company looking at this, if you're a company looking at these shows, that, man, you know what, maybe take the March Madness down, make that a nighttime event, and put your people in a room and listen to this and go through these segments and learn how to be better at our space, because what this is doing is making us better. And that's where nowadays, you know, this is like a legal guy or an accountant or a pharmaceutical guy or they're always going to things that make them better. New science, new surgical procedures and techniques, new laser versus cutting, all of this stuff. Well, that's, folks, this is our profession. You got here because you had a dream. You thought about what you could become. You saw yourself doing something, and that's why you said yes to whatever company it is you're with. And this kind of stuff should be a mandate in companies, not only in the field, so that we understand how we get better every day. And I salute you, Randy. I applaud you. I applaud those that have been on this. I'm honored to be able to share a few thoughts today with the people that love our profession, because it matters to me. I remember something, and I'll turn this back to you. I get talking, and it means so much to me. I remember one day in the car business, I saw a guy that I revered. He was the top salesman. He was detailed. He looked sharp. He was put together. He was organized. He was in charge. And I remember him telling a guest at the door, I am proud to be a used car salesman. And at that moment, I remember thinking, I wasn't proud. It was like, you know, you're a used car, so there are jokes about them. It's like being an attorney. There's jokes about them. I wasn't proud. And I said at that moment, that day, that I was going to be proud of the profession, that I was putting people into something that I believed in, that I was going to put a person in their first car that I thought they could afford, that in 2 years or 30 months, when an average person comes back, that I'd be able to get them out of it, that I could get them in a car and keep a customer forever and ever and ever. Well, it taught me, I'm proud of network marketing. I'm proud of this profession. I'm proud of what we're trying to do. I'm disappointed in some of the paths we choose to take. But the entire definition of what we do every day is a pure, hardworking, honest way of making a great living, a living that you control your own destiny, that gives you a chance to be here at the Grand Wailea in Maui, Hawaii, that gives you a chance to take your wife or your spouse or your partner or your children. It doesn't matter. This profession does it. And Randy, it's just, I'm passionate about it because I see so much out there right now that's not what we want in our profession. We combat it at the top. We're talking about it as corporations. You know, if half of the people really knew you like I know you in the space, it would be amazing the change or transformation that would take place. And I'm talking to you top leaders out there too, that are at the top, that know damn well that what your situation isn't what we're talking about today. And to be able to look into the eyes of these people, guys, we're looking into the eyes of people who have never had anything on many occasions. Never been able to send a kid to a football or baseball camp. Let's get real for a second. We're talking about people, the masses. We're not talking about people that, hey, you have to have a Harvard education. You have to have done 10 years of work. You've had to be with big companies that we see on the Fortune 500 all the time. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about ordinary people like you and I that are coming into this business, that you're recruiting, that you're talking about, that you're teaching about products, that you're making giving them a platform and an understanding that, and a belief that they can do it. Let's get back to that. Let's get back to who this really is. I'm thankful to Amway, the company of the dark ages. I'm thankful to what they established. Do you know how many lives have been changed as a start of the profession we're in?
Yeah.
Be proud of it. Be proud to do it right. Be proud to get them to return. I needed that car buyer to come back in 30 months. If
Right.
I took advantage of him, I'd never be able to get him out of the car.
Yeah.
Do it right. And think of it in groups of masses. That's what makes this so great.
You know, the analogy for what you just said is, I need to be able to get them out of that car in 30 months. What you're talking about is, you don't want them to come back in 30 months and they're so upside down in the car, and now the car is old and broken down. They can't. The equivalent in our business is front loading people with some big pack of products that they can't use and resell in a short period of time, right? And stocking them up, that's where people, they're like, wow, everybody's selling my product on discount on Amazon and eBay. And yeah, that's because you're front loading all these people and you're leaving all these dead bodies by the side of the road. Of course, they're, trying to sell the product for 20 cents on the dollar because you front loaded them, One of the things
that's what we're talking about. And you see it every day. That person in the car business, you knew that you had them back 30 months later. By the way, if you sold them the second car, you had a customer for life. They never came back. They sent their daughter in. They would call on the phone and say, hey, can you have a car? My daughter's going to college. You just had to get through the second cycle.
Right.
And that's business. That's real good business. I remember the story I told you at the first with that guy that wanted to write a check. I took the taxes, backed them out of the deal. That's what I discounted the car. So when he came in the next day, the question was, well, what's the taxes? I said I was able to discount the car and it covered the tax amount. He said, oh, that was really nice. Look, let me tell you something. 13 vehicles later, 13 before I left that business in business trucks, 13. And that man was willing to come in. And because if I'd have charged that price, it wouldn't have mattered where he went. He'd have been bumming around on a late afternoon one time after a hard day's work and found any dealership. But he came back. You said it, Randy. We front load the crap out of them. How many leaders have I had come into my office and say, hey, let's bump this up. Let's put a $6,000 pack, a $10,000 pack on this. Let's get them checks really quickly in their hand. Well, I know what you're saying. Yeah, guy spends $10,000 to come into a business and get a pack of all kinds of things, to go home and sit in his pantry and be the source for contention in his family and marriage and everything else. And then he can't really be passionate about the business because he really doesn't believe. He actually has buyer's remorse from what happened because we're front loading people. And we need to do a better job in our profession across the board. And corporate guys need to think that way too.
I joined NSA, probably National Safety Associates, I think was the name, the water filter company, the precursor to something else now. But back in the 80s, probably I joined. And my first meeting, the guy told me, listen, you need to buy this $20,000 kit package. I can get the whole thing financed and you can be car qualified your first month. You'll be able to tell everybody you qualified for a bonus car the first month. And fortunately, I wasn't so foolish to do that because they set up credit, deals and people, it's like, it's just horrific. There's too much of that. But you know what I want to jump on? Something else you said about you wanted everybody in the company to watch these shows, right? You said the shipping, marketing, whatever. One of the things I started doing in the last year is tell companies, all right, I need to do a boot camp for your corporate people. I love to do boot camps with leaders, right? 2-day thing, and we got all kind of high-level leadership training and how to manage your money and how to lead an organization and all, But I recognize, especially I saw coming out of the pandemic, the number of companies who now have employees who believe that work is doing Zoom meetings, that's what their job is. So I was working with a company and I realized their culture at this company for the corporate staff is they believe you're doing your job if you're making PowerPoint presentations and you're conducting Zoom meetings. They never were out in the field. They never work evenings. They never work weekends because they're corporate people. Well, when is our business built? It's built in the evening. It's built on the weekends. And so it's like I'm building out their distributor kit. And I say, I want to include, let me cover up the logo. I don't want anyone saying I'm promoting anything. I'm a big proponent of shaker bottles like this for branding. You brand the company name or the product name. And, these are advertising and everywhere people, particularly nutritional companies, wellness companies, your people are in the gym, they're at Pilates, they're at martial arts. That's your billboard for your company, right? So I'm like, hey, I want shaker bottles and I want to include one in the distributor kit. So I put it out, I send an email to the team, I get a reply from somebody and, reply all, and they say, guys, if we do this shaker bottle, this will not fit in the box that we send the current distributor kit. And it would require a new box, which is not an authorized size that we currently have. And this would be a great deal of difficulty sourcing these boxes because we have the current one we use, and we've been using it for 7 years now. So I click reply all, and I'm going to send a message like, okay, Mr. So-and-so, I don't know who you are, but maybe you could check with, I don't know. No, actually, I was starting to write, I don't know who is the boss of this person, but would somebody explain to him that everybody in this email thread works for the distributors. The distributors pay the check of everybody in this email group. There was like 15 people on the thread. Me as a consultant and 14 executives with the company. And I'm like, all these 15 people, we get paid by the distributors. So I don't need an email saying, oh, we would have to find a new box. I need an email that says, hey, we're going to need a new box. So I checked the sources and I found a supplier who could do that. And here's how much it would cost and whatever. So I'm about to hit send on this email. And I say, I'm new. I'm only working with these people about 2 months. They probably, and I come on a little strong at the start. Yes. People who don't know me, they don't realize I'm not being mean. I don't want to be nasty. I'm on the spectrum. I say what's on my mind. I'm not politically correct. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I need to not send this email. I need to, chill and find out who this person is and privately find out who their boss is and say, would you have a conversation with this person? Because I figured this has to be some entry-level employee who's in purchasing. No, it was the chief operation officer who sent that email. And I realized this is the fucking problem. The C-suite level people think this business is about doing Zoom meetings. And, I kept going against this. So finally I tell the CEO, I need a boot camp with all these people, because you have marketing people that don't know the difference between a social media post that would go to a candidate versus what you're doing to a distributor, right? They were putting these crazy, trying to start viral memes on LinkedIn. And I'm like, guys, LinkedIn is not Facebook. LinkedIn is for employees. That's where employees go to find employment. So your clever little dance meme that you think is going to go viral, which got 4 views, that doesn't go on LinkedIn. We have to teach the marketing department how social media works, how to do campaigns. I have to, tell the CFO. The CFO is like, well, you're buying these shaker bottles for $7.22 and you're selling them for $9. And, with our shipping and storage in the warehouse, we're making 3 cents on the bottle. We have to make 10 times everything we make. And I'm like, I need these people in a boot camp to say, no, you don't need to make your regular profit margin on swag. This is not a product you make your money on the core product line. This is an advertising product that your distributor is going to buy from you. And then he or she's going to go out and advertise your company everywhere they go for free. So when they want to buy a hoodie or workout gear, or a baseball cap, or a shaker bottle, or a whatever, you can't mark this up to get your normal product markup, because we're not paying commission on this anyway, right? But so I literally have been having them and I tell them, I want the CFO there, I want the logistics person there, I want the purchasing people there, I want we're having a convention. So I sent a WhatsApp to one of the top leaders and I said, listen, you got to get more of your people there. I don't think you have enough of your team members coming. And they say, well, no, they're already closed. It's already sold out. I'm like, convention is not sold out. What are you talking about? He said, yeah, Raul called yesterday. He wanted to bring 10 people. He called to get the 10 pack, and the customer service told him, no, we've closed off ticket sales for the event. Well, I know how many tickets the company has sold, and I know the capacity of the hall, and I know there's room for 800 more people, and the convention is like a week away. I'm like, no, Raul is no. You misunderstood Raul. Call Raul and tell him, get those 10 people registered. So they get me back, and no, I just talked to Raul, and he tried again, and they told him, their ticket sales are closed. So I call customer service and I say, you haven't stopped selling tickets, have you? And they said, yeah, we always close them 7 days before the event. So then we know how many people are coming and we can be prepared for the meals and everything. I'm like, you can't stop selling tickets 7 days before the event. So I call the CEO. I say, dude, you need to get down to the marketing department. Those people have stopped selling tickets. He says, no, Randy, they didn't stop selling tickets. And I'm like, I'm telling you, bro, they stopped selling tickets. He's like, that's impossible. That could never happen. I said, if I'm lying, I'm dying. And you want me to send you the voice note? He goes down the hallway, starts talking to people, and they say, well, yeah, we always close it a week before because, that makes us plan, and, we know how many handouts, and we know this and that and the other thing. And because they don't know what their job is, they thought their job is to do Zoom meetings and make PowerPoint slides about the event, right? And so I wanted them all in a boot camp to explain, there's only one job we all have. That's to make it easier for distributors to get customers and easier to get clients.
Yeah, no question about it. And, Randy, you hit on some things that I think are true. So many times in companies, I used to make it mandatory that the CFO went out into the field. They want to stay back. They want to crunch numbers. They want to look at them. I used to tell the ops guy, I need you out in the field. You remember, I brought those guys to events. I wanted them to experience what we were spending money on, or the person, Randy, that they were working for. The number one question I would say is, who's the biggest asset here? What's the most important thing here? And if it wasn't the distributor, then we had a problem. And so you're right. Today, it's become a Zoom meeting. It's become sitting around in sessions, making Zooms and PowerPoints. And that's where the profession has turned, and COVID kind of started that, but that's where we've turned to be what we are right now. You can't, if you're sitting in a meeting with people on your management team and you don't share that same vision for the field, what you just talked about, whether it be shaker bottles, whether it be the swag, whether it be the tickets for the events, and they don't understand it, then we're not in the field. How do you expect to sit around a table when we know the business is done in the evenings and our guys are home sitting with their families? That's the part of this profession that we as companies have to do a better job of. We got to get out there with people. We got to see the operation work. From the CEO, when I was the CEO for the 8 years that I was, and I was fortunate because I had a partner that we were co-CEOs with, that if I was gone, he was here, running the store. And if he was gone, I was there running the store. But there are people in positions that should be able to do that. But a CEO better get out. A CEO better see what's happening. And a CEO better make sure his accountant, finance team, and ops team understand the business we're doing. And when that all happens, that's when the magic comes to play. That email you wanted to shoot back to that vice president of ops, yeah. It doesn't happen because we're engaged in the same process. Yeah. That's what makes us different.
You know what else jumped out at me when you were telling the story of the truck? I'm thinking $70,000 for a truck. And now I think you can spend a lot more than that on a truck these days, right? It's a lot crazy how much a truck can cost.
Yeah, it's today, the same truck. Yeah, you're going to be 125, 130.
Unbelievable. So here's my question for you. Elon Musk comes up with this incredible looking cyber truck, which has been years in development and I don't think is out anytime soon. I was reading something with Seth Godin, and he was kind of talked how he thought Elon completely missed the boat because he's spending all these years developing the Cybertruck, while Ford and some EV company has got out there with a low-priced electric truck.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Ford got real aggressive. It's called the Lightning, and they made it happen. In fact, a friend of mine just bought it. A doctor friend of mine, neighbor in my area, just bought that, and we went for a ride in it. Yeah, they nailed it. I mean, now the debate is whether all of that is really what's best for us or not. Is still up there, right? I remember getting in a snowstorm and it was stuck for 7 hours. It was cold, and turned them on, and then I noticed some Teslas on the side of the road kind of shut down. They'd run out of the charge, and you get into and I never thought of that. Like I never thought that, yeah, they got to keep the car running too. But yeah, Ford said, no, we're going to go do it. And they beat Elon to it. And that's, you're seeing some dividends there for Ford.
Interesting. What do you?
Ford, and think about it, Ford has been the #1 selling F-150 truck for 47 straight years. #1.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's amazing. What else? What do you got on your list? Stuff that you wanted to talk about?
Well, yeah. So I've really appreciated the things we've talked about so far. We
By the
talked
way,
about yeah.
It's an honor to have you on the show as well. That you're saying it's an honor to be on with me, but as soon as I knew I was doing this, I say I got to get Big Higgy on there as well and get his perspective. Because
Well, that means a lot. I should tell people the first time I ever went to a World Series was I said, I'm going to take the $3,500. I'm going to buy 2 tickets. It's going to be $7,000. I'm calling my friend in Miami. The Devil Rays were playing the Phillies. I'm a Philly fan. He was, rooting for the Devil Rays because he's in Florida. And we went to Philadelphia to watch that game, to watch the last game, to make it,
7.
Hey, me and Randy, we sat right above the third base dugout, 3 rows in. The atmosphere was unbelievable. I'm at a World Series thanks to this great profession we both love. With one of my best, honestly, I couldn't think of a better guy to sit there with at it that loves the game. and we're sitting there and they call the game in the 6th inning due to weather. And I remember they were wanting to kill Buck because he had a game moved because of some football game, and they were turning a few cars over in the parking lot, and there were a few fires, and you and I waited for a couple days, and they still postponed it. We ended up giving those tickets to a couple of bums who were sitting on the side street, and I've always wondered if they got to finish the last few innings. Great times. But what I want to ask you, and we kind of talked a little bit about this, that day I approached you with that deal, and it was significant in an increase in money for you. And you looked at me and you said, Jeff, if I take that deal, I can no longer look at people and train. Duplication Nation would mean nothing. Every book I've written would mean nothing. If I took that deal, which would be a good deal financially for me, it would erase who I was. What and how have you been able to be so consistently honorable in the profession? We see, if I had $1 for every guy that came in and said, I can do it, I'll guarantee 200,000 people, I'll guarantee this, I'll guarantee that, whatever. I'd be wealthy, right? How have you done it with integrity? And what do you do every day to make sure that's the paramount piece of Randy Gage? Because people ask me.
I think it's because I joined during the wild, wild west days of network marketing. It was all hype. It was all rah-rah. It was all show business glitz. And the ends justified the means for most people in the profession. And I didn't know any of that. I came in, as you know, I joined the Amway Corporation under a line of people who really didn't know anything about the business. The sponsor I had quit the business like 6 months later and stole the money that was supposed to go for people's commission that month. And he wrote a very nice, loving letter to all of us and said, I'm so sorry. I'm supposed to send you these commissions, but I've lost all my money and I needed to pay my family bills. And so I'm disappearing. And so I didn't have strong leadership there. So I bounced around in other companies and I came across one of the gurus of the time. My sponsor in the company I was with brought in this guru to train us. And he said, hey, we're going to have lunch with him tomorrow. I want you can come to lunch and meet him, and we're going to have this private lunch. I'm like, wow, I'm going to meet the guy who wrote the book. And there's a cliche, like, you don't want to meet your heroes sometimes because they could be really disappointing. And it was really disappointing. And he was just like, Randy, you don't understand how this works. Everybody buys $100 a month and everybody gets checked. It doesn't matter if you just throw the products in the river. Doesn't matter. What matters is the money game if everybody comes in. And at the time of our lunch, he pitched us 7 different companies that he was working at that time with, the company we were working, and telling us that they all blended together because the products didn't compete. And, we were going to be getting 7, 8 different bonus checks every month. And then, I went to the water filter deal, and the guy tried to sell me $20,000 up front. I probably made $8,000 a year was my income at that point in my life. And this guy's telling me to buy $20,000 worth of water filters so I could get car qualified and then go get a note on a car, a luxury car that I could never afford, And so I just wanted to make sure nobody in my team ever went through anything like that. I just, and it, I struggled for 5 years. And then the come to Jesus meeting that I had with myself was, hey, I've got to do the business in a way that other people can replicate. And then I developed what became my generic system, which became the basis of my books and my seminars, and it's still the basis of my work today. It's just evolved over the years. Now where I'm at is I want to make every decision by the standard of, can it be duplicated by somebody 25 levels down from me who has never met me in person? And if that decision, if that criteria can't be met, then that's a decision I can't take. So if somebody comes to me and says, okay, here's the deal, we're going to put you in this special spot, we've got these 10 other lines, we're going to roll underneath you, we're going to auto qualify you at this rank every month. How in the world is somebody 25 levels underneath me who's never met me going to duplicate that? So, one of the biggest fights I have right now, the reason I started this MLM Confidential newsletter with Jaime Loquier, is we're really fighting to clean up the toxic culture in this space. There's a lot of older companies and new, I don't want to say older companies, because there's a lot of brand new ones doing the same garbage, where they've just got toxic culture. They're gaming the comp plan. They're buying ranks. They're buying leaders. They run, go on a run. Everybody's going to buy 2 extra cases of product this month, so Nancy and Herman can qualify at this rank, and they'll get the pin, and we'll put them on the website, and they can walk across the stage, and that person will never qualify at that rank ever again. It was a one-time dog and pony show. And it's killing these organizations. And these are the leaders I get that come to me and want consulting and coaching. It's like, everybody thinks I'm a success. I'm at this rank. People think I make $80,000 a month. I really make $15,000 a month, and I spend $8,000 of it propping up people because my sponsor calls me and says, hey, we have to buy $5,000 worth of product under this person, or $3,000 worth of product under that leg. And and they're so it's like, I did a training for one of the top leaders, said, you got to go down and work with my team in this area. They can't hear it from me. They need to hear it from you. We got to kill this culture, all the deal culture and the buy-in. They had literally they're running 80% of their top ranked peoples are not qualifying at rank every month. And so I went down and I did a all day thing working with them. And they had a practice where they were telling people, okay, everybody in this, all the distributors, they'd have an opportunity meeting. And then they'd say, okay, all of the distributors, please stand up. We want you to share what is the highest amount of money you ever earned in 1 month with ABC company. So, and they go around and they pay, and the highest income I made is 21,000. Well, that person did make 21,000 one time when they were auto qualified by people buying under them and volume that never came back. It was a one-time only thing, but they make 7,000 a month. So I tell them, you guys, this shit has to stop, and it has to stop today. I get a standing ovation, spontaneous standing ovation. They all get up and they're like, and at the break, I had people coming to me and saying, oh, you have no idea. You've changed my life, because I just feel like an imposter, because that's what my sponsorship line tells me, is that I have to do that every month when we have the meeting. We all have to say what's the most we ever made that 1 month. And I just, my palms get sweaty, my skin crawls, right? We got to clear up that, so that what keeps me honest, what keeps my integrity with that stuff is I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to feel like an imposter on stage. I don't want my skin crawling. I don't want to look someone in the eye and say, yes, I'm making $150,000 a month and you can too, if they don't have the same pathway to 150,000 that I had.
It's interesting to hear you say that. I remember that event that we had. It was one of the events in Salt Lake, and I had briefcases full of real cash, and I think we had like $275,000 in cash in your briefcase, and we had the Loomis truck back in, and we had police officers in Salt Lake hired, and because we knew it was real cash, and we kind of escorted you to the banks, and we wanted to get in there quick. And I think on that trip, real earnings. And I remember my assistant, Julie Nelson, who we both love, back at the time, said, you know what's amazing? He did this all the way it's supposed to be. There was nothing fake or fraudulent. We're not showing a number that is not accurate. And I said, that's what makes not only Randy special, but it's what makes this profession great for the person who's sitting on that back row, who's coming from somewhere, who's never had the ability to do anything in their life. And I want to be able to stand up on stage and jump from and share with the world, this was done by doing it all right. You did it right. And so now as I talk to colleagues and professionals, I was telling you earlier that I'm here with one of the great developers in our profession, quite frankly, in products. And we were talking about just some of the things we were talking last night about a certain product line and a certain story. And when you're out there and you're talking about real things like this, and you realize that, man, there is something to it. It matters. It becomes real. It becomes truly amazing. And then when you couple that with a person with integrity that really does it that way, that's what makes it great. But the people I'm associating with are saying, your business is really a sham, because you know what? All you got to do is go here and you get a deal there and you get a deal here and you're getting a deal there. And there's all these guys getting deals and they share it with people not in the profession. Well, how are we supposed to recruit people? How are we
Right.
supposed to bring that colleague that we think a lot of into a space where they know it's not true in a lot of cases? And I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking about what we're seeing today, and as I was talking last night, Travis and I were talking, and we said that as I left the conversation, I said to myself, that's a legitimate story and legitimate ingredients backed by science, backed by knowledge, and from the beginning of mankind. How come we can't get the people like yourself in a real environment like that to take that kind of a story to the world? And that's why I feel bad about Nathan Rex. That's why I love this stuff you do and what you stand for in the profession, because we got to be able to look people in the eye, not in our profession. It's like when they asked me, when I heard that guy say I was proud to be a used car salesman.
Yeah.
That moment, I became proud of it. I want to be proud of this. I can be proud of the way I conduct business here and the way you can conduct business here. But I want to be proud of our profession. And right now, that's concerning to me. It's concerning to see what we're seeing in the social media world. It's concerning to see a fake check. I talked with another guy at another company, Randy, and I said, there's no way based on that volume that check exists. And he says, yeah, but we got to create a story. Well, you got to be kidding me. We got to create a story.
Wow.
And I'd never throw him or his company. I'm just saying, you know what? That's the stuff that I love you about. And that's what I wanted people on this show that you have to hear, companies to hear. That's how it has to be done. And I appreciate that. So thanks for sharing that. I got one more thing I wanted to ask you. You've been in a consulting fashion for quite some time, doing some amazing work with many companies. When you're interacting with these founders, these CEOs, these executives, do you sense that the reality of network marketing is real, or are you seeing a facade? Do you go and shake your head, scratch your head at the end and say, man, he doesn't get it or she doesn't get it? Or, man, this is a concern because this company is seeing out there.
I seem to attract the serious, credible people, I think, because of my work. I mean, I get the occasional fly-by-night deal, but the way I'm priced, they usually aren't going to hire me. Let me share a story how I deal with this that I think is really funny, and nobody in the world knows this story in our profession. This will be a worldwide exclusive. I get contacted, they go to the website, they send a message, Lornette sends me a thing, hey, this company has bought 1 hour consulting time with you. Okay, great. So she sends me the thing, and I always click on the website and see who this company is, who this person is that wants to talk to me for an hour. So I click and I'm like, this is an MLM crypto scam. This is crazy. Why would they must be crazy if they're calling me. Don't they know what I'm going to tell them? So we get on the call, and there's like 5 or 6 of the executive team there. And they say, we're this company. And I'm like, guys, you do know that your program is illegal in the United States. If you're operating here and it says on your website that you're operating here, you're going to get shut down and you face prison time. They're like, no, we have a legal company, a legal firm we work with. And I said, I don't know what legal firm you're working with, but either they're lying to you or you haven't understood what they said. But there's no way this compensation structure you're doing is illegal. and you're running a cryptocurrency, which doesn't even work as a product in network marketing. This is an investment deal. It's a security deal. Your people are not licensed. They're not, qualified. They're not trained. They're not accredited. This is just this is a shit show waiting to happen. I can't even let you hire me because I would never work with you to promote this kind of thing. And they had a president for the US operation, very nice lady. She says, no, we've got legal advice. And I said, you seem like a really nice lady, but you need to understand you're going to go to prison if you operate this in the United States. And she wasn't here, she was doing it from overseas. So I told her, you need to know, if you get on a plane and you show up here in the United States, you're going to go to prison. They're like, no. And I said, okay, what I will do is I will do a evaluation of your compensation structure, your product line, because they were doing other stuff that said, we're not really MLM. We have these courses we're selling, and then they get tokens with the courses. And trust me, we're really legal. And we've talked to all the lawyers. So they want me to give them an opinion, which obviously I'm assuming they're going to take out in the world and say, Randy has studied our comp plan and says it's legitimate. We've hired Randy Gage. So it's the kind of thing I normally charge $10,000 for. Well, I keep telling them, I don't even want your $10,000 because I'm telling you, this dog don't hunt. They're like, no, trust us. Once you see how this is, you're going to see. And I'm like, now I think they think I'm stupid. They're not, I don't believe at this point that that they believe they're legal. I think they're con men and they think I'm stupid. So I say, instead of telling them $10,000, I'm going to tell them $20,000 to do this overview because they pissed me off. And then I'm thinking to myself, and when I do that, the companies pay me half the money up front, and then they give me the other half when I submit their evaluation back. So I'm thinking to myself, these guys are MLM scammers. They're never going to pay me the second half of the contract. So instead of telling them it's $20,000, I'm going to tell them it's $40,000. And then I'll get my $20,000 up front, and they'll never pay me the next $20,000. So that's what I tell them. Okay, here's the deal. I don't think you're legal, but you keep swearing on a stack of Bibles that you're legal. So I will take the project. It's going to cost you $40,000. It's $20,000 up front, and then $20,000 at the end of when I deliver the report. It'll take me about 30 days to do the report. In the meantime, I need your comp plan. I need your website. I need to, do some interviews with some leaders. I want to see some of your opportunity presentation, live streams. Send me the PowerPoint of your presentation, blah, blah, blah. So they hire me, and it's exactly what I think it is. It's a damn crypto scam. And they're claiming they have 186,000 distributors. Meanwhile, as part of my research, I say, and by the way, I need access to your CFO because I'm going to need some reports. So one of the reports I say is, I want to see the top 100 payout of the distributors. I don't want to know anybody's name, just block out the names, but I need to see what rank are they qualifying at, how much are they earning, so I can see how the comp plan works, how the difference between the rate structures. Like in you saw the show I did with Daniel Song, where I'm talking about the intervals between each rank and how attainable is. So I'm evaluating that from. So meanwhile, they're claiming on their website they have 186,000 active people. I've got the top 100 from the CFO with the names blacked out. And the top income earner in the world is making $1,700 a month. the top number one in the world.
My gosh.
It's all just, it's all just smoke and mirrors. So I prepare my report and I say, I went in this with good faith. You kept telling me this is a legitimate deal and you have legal advice, but here's why it can't be legal in the US, in the UK, in France, and here, there, everywhere. And they like, no, this is not what we hired you for. You're mistaken. Our lawyers have told us, and we want our money back because, you didn't do what you promised, which is to give us a legitimate analysis of our comp plan. And I said, I'm giving you exactly what I promised you, which is a honest evaluation of your comp plan, your pay structure, everything. And no, you're not going to get your $20,000 back. I spent hours research finding this stuff out. And they're like, you're just wrong. It's just your opinion that you're saying this is not legal. So I sent them back. I said, here's 11 specific ways that this program is illegal in the United States of America and pretty much all first world countries. And then they were like, okay. And they settled so we settled and said, I'm keeping the 20,000. They don't have to pay the second 20,000, which is exactly what I knew would happen, because it's like, honestly, you think I'm that stupid that you can, snowball me with that bullshit?
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. While you were telling me this, I went and reserved the handle Get Gauge. It's called Get Gauge. If you have any questions, hire Get Gauge. And he comes in, does a full investigation, figures it out. That's the stuff, though, Randy, that tarnishes us. It's the stuff, and people think they're going to, and they're all junkies. They think they're going to get the big deal, the big money. And one thing we do create in our profession, because we do show checks. I've been not a victim, a proponent of this in one phase of my life. We're showing big checks. We're handing big briefcases of cash. We're walking people across the road and doing things to the bank to get it back in so they don't rob you in the process and all that. But what we have to be really careful with as companies, one, we can't go to jail. So you got to follow the rules. You got to be upfront. You got to be right. You got to, bring it in. I think it's important for consultants out there to understand what they're doing, to be able to give you the information that's real and prepared real stuff. Understand the laws. Understand what's good and not good for our businesses, and what keeps us clean. That story's fascinating to me, but goes to the point that's where we're at in many ways in our profession. And the days of, I look at companies like Nu Skin and Amway and some of these companies that have been around for a long time, and credit to them because they did it right. They did it the right way. And I know I'm probably not supposed to mention names on here. I apologize, but
It's no problem.
Getting my point.
This is for big kids, this show.
Okay. So I'm getting my point across on that to a big kid playing in the big sandbox. Know exactly who you're playing with. Don't play with a stranger. We learned that as a young child. It's real in this business. Play with people of integrity, with people that put a plan in play and a product in play and a company in play that makes you proud, where you can stand up and say, I am proud to be in direct sales and network marketing with this company. I'm proud of them every day. Doesn't mean that they make every decision right, but they're striving to always do it right. And that word strive becomes important in that process. So very interesting.
the Grand Relaya needs to invest a little more in their Wi-Fi system, because you're breaking up a little. So as we've gotten later in the show, the transmission has been not as good. So we probably need to wrap it up, but I can't wrap it up because one of the things I had that I absolutely wanted to have you talk about was your role as a coach, because I think that's, as a guy who witnessed you coming into the profession with no experience, turn into a guy who really is a savant in the profession, who really knows how sales teams work, how field teams work. You've become amazing at that. And I think a lot of it is your experience coaching at all these levels, from your kids' little league on up. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you or how that comes into play?
Sure. And I do apologize if the reception's not been great, darn it. I feel bad about that. But coaching is, we all have hobbies. It's one of my great passions. It's one of my great loves of life. Having a chance to be a mentor to a young person in a young life, I think is important, and especially today. I'm the head football coach at the high school that I live in here in my local town. I get the chance to, because of my profession, I can practice later in the evenings. We do a lot of under light practices and whatnot. But I probably spend every day 2 hours of every day of the year on coaching, even in the off season. I make it a point to interview every player multiple times. I have sheets that I have them fill out. We talk about life because playing sports, let's be honest, we've had one guy come through our program that was good enough to play in the NFL. And he happens to be down there with the Dolphins right now. But, I've been coaching a long, long time. It's rare to get a guy like that. And I had a coach tell me one time that if you're in the business long enough, it's about every 25 years that a player that special comes through. But being able to spend time and coach and be competitive and teach principles and go through hard times with young people, going through victories, those celebrations in the locker room, those moments where you look a player in the eye late in the fourth quarter, and there's a look that only a coach knows when he sees a player. Give him the look back that I'm walking through this alley with you, that I am going to make a play. Those are great moments. It's moments like, it's also the moments when a phone call comes. I remember I was in Sioux Falls for a meeting, and I get a call at 1:30 in the morning. It's a player, and he's up on the mountain, and he's chosen to take his life. And I wasn't at home. And in the past, when a person has done this or has contacted me, I've been able to get in the car and find him. And it's always worked out so far. But on this special occasion, I didn't have his parents' number. I was in Sioux Falls. I didn't know what to do. I continued the conversation. Ultimately, I had to come up with a deal for him. And the deal was, listen, I can see you've made this decision. I support it. You're going to do it. I want you to know, as your coach, I support you in this, but I need you to do one thing for me to give you that support. And that's to let me come home tomorrow and to give you one final hug so that I can go on every day in my life knowing that you know that I loved you. And love's a word that I use all the time. It's a word that is important, and especially in the life of a young person. It's an important word. They're going through all kinds of things at home, with dating, with whatever it is they have, breakups, things like this. It sends kids into social media. it has become so ugly, so ugly. And that young man consented to that deal with the promise that I would not stop him. We agreed to the deal. I knew if I could get there, I had a chance. And I got there, and I had a chance. And he's here today. And this was a young man who was left on a bus in Taiwan as an infant, who was adopted at the age of 12. Him and his best friend were in a foster. At age 12, he was adopted to a family in another country. Mother dies. Dad has to send him back to foster care. A family in Utah finds him, gets him, brings him in. His ear is all but torn off from being whipped with rice sticks. He told me a story that moment for the first time. And I asked him if he would share it with our football team. And tears flooded down his eyes, and he was afraid to. He didn't want him to think that he was not normal, or that he had gone through something else. And long story short, Randy, he was able to speak to our football team and share his story. And I get touched because in this world, we live in so many challenging things. As I watched him share his story with the rest of those 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, I saw tears, real tears, coming down the faces of tough high school kids. And that's the reason, in a nutshell, why I love to do what I love to do, because I get those kids for the rest of my life. I hear about when they're married. I hear about when their first baby comes. I hear when they've lost a child. I've been the call twice when I've had a couple in jail, and they're so heartbroken. And that's the only person they felt they could call. And so that's the greatest life that I get to be a part of, to be able to be with kids every day and to teach them how to win, not only on the field, but in the game of life. And so I'm glad you asked me that question, because it's important. And I know you love the thing. You've been a great supporter of me over the years in that as well. And it just makes my life perfect.
My friend, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your thoughts with me, and by extension to everybody that we allow to eavesdrop in on these, the real world conversations of what the business is really, really, really about. And that coaching element, that is the essence of what we do. So,
Randy, can I add one more thing?
You certainly can.
That I didn't get asked, that I do want to say, because I think this is something we are missing, and it's so important. And I hope the reception's okay. Our profession was built on providing a dream for people. And it was built on giving someone, an ordinary person, the belief that they could become something, do something greater than ever before. And when I got into this business, I decided, I was new and I didn't know any better, that I was going to take a certain percentage of our funds and put them into incentives and trips and real life things. And you and I saw the world together. We've been here at the Grand Wailea a number of times, and been in the most lavish of hotels. We went to Australia and sailed the Sydney Harbor, and flew you to the Hayman Islands, and we took a special private boat to the Great Barrier Reef and dove, and we've been to the Four Seasons of Costa Rica and the Four Seasons. We've been all over the world in real life settings, where I have been able to recognize achievers for doing amazing things to be qualified to be there. And then on the other side of that, the cruises, we always had cruises that we were pushed for people that were bringing people into the business and establishing customers and real things in the business. And I remember our last cruise, we had 888 people. And we have sailed from Malaga, Spain, through Italy and France and the UK. And I remember stopping on that cruise with my father. I brought him and we went to Normandy, and my grandfather came in on that beach and to see the national anthem played and my dad cry and to sign a wall that only a first or second generation to the soldier was allowed to sign, and to be there with my father and to have those experiences. That's what made the profession in our company so great. It's culture. And if you're listening as a company and you're looking at this, COVID brought us out of this. And what we've done in the profession is we have taken our percentage, the 2.5 that we always allot for that kind of thing, and we pulled it into corporation bonuses. We brought it into ourselves. But we have data, significant data, that shows the retention in our businesses. And we had a really good one in the former company we were with. It was in the top 5, and we were part of DSA. We got to see those numbers. We were part of knowing, and we could quantify that retention to those moments where we brought people on trips. Or when a diamond was hit and I surprised them by flying in their directors to their city and their parents, and they walked in the room and they see their mom and dad there and all of their diamond directors, and they're bawling because they're so moved by this. Yeah. And we give them a billboard on the main interstate and to see how that felt. That's what culture is. It's about bringing us all together, making it family, making that feel exceptional and making it memorable. And my friend, we don't lose people. We don't lose them when we're taking that approach, when we really are trying to make this about a family of people from all walks of life, celebrating those causes. And recognition and incentive trips could not be more important, and more important today than ever before. They just have to be set up right. And the return on that investment is quantifiably proven. And that's the reason I love our business. I love coaching for what I told you. I love our business because I get to see the firsts for many people, that first cruise, that first airplane ride. We forget about this, my friend. Yeah. So many people, so many people still have never jumped on a cruise ship or sat here at the Grand Wailea and looked out at whales and the beauty and all of that. And that's what we provide people, companies that really put that money where it's supposed to be. It completes that entire circle. It completes the culture. And it's vital to all that we do, quite frankly, in this business. And so I wanted to put that point out there. If there are people looking and listening, take that seriously. Take that 2.5% and dial it down, baby, because I'll tell you what, you're going to see great results.
And you're at the Grand Wailea at this time of year where literally you can just sit on the beach and see orcas breaching the water, jumping in and out. So, for people who have only ever seen that on TV, on a Nat Geo special, to be there in person and experience that magic, it's extraordinary.
Remember that time I brought you by chopper in France? We picked you up and I choppered you to that castle.
You haven't seen it yet. I did a chopping up with Ann Feinstein, which is going to be out by the time people are watching this. It'll already be out, but you haven't seen it because today is 2 days before. Ann and I talk about that trip to the castle and the air, the helicopter ride and all of that. We went into that.
Oh my, I can't wait to see that. But that's what it's about. And I'll never forget those moments, seeing you, even you, who has it all the money you could want, come off a chopper with a smile from ear to ear because you were receiving a little bit of what you had deserved, so deservingly earned. what a great thing for me to sit back and see that.
Yeah, listen, nobody in the profession has done recognition. Well, I won't say nobody. Mary Kay maybe did. Art Williams maybe did. But I'm going to put Jeff Higginson up there on the Mount Rushmore of people in direct selling who know how to do recognition.
Well, that's an honor. That's an honor.
Well, you
Thank
should
you
be
very
honored
much.
because, yeah, you really do it at that level. So for you guys watching, you need to subscribe to the channel. You need to put something down in the comments, hit the like button, tell me that you exist. You need to share this with your leaders so they learn the real world. I just think this stuff is so much more powerful than just, hey, here's where you find candidates, and here's how you make invitations, and here's how you follow up. We got that all over the place. There's lots of places we can share that. What people can't get is what we're doing with these chopping it up things. So I hope everybody watching, you need to alert your team to this. We have now added it as a podcast. Breaking news, if you haven't heard, we have started the Duplication Nation MLM podcast. Duplication Nation MLM podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. And we're taking each of these chopping it up videos and we're putting them up on the podcast so people can listen to them while they're on the treadmill or walking their dog, or download them and listen on an airplane. So it'll make it even more accessible. And of course, some of you listening, you know, you're going to need to share this show with your corporate team because they need to learn some of these lessons that Jeff has been talking about. So again, Jeff, of course, we're going to do this again. I can tell already by the first 8-9 shows we've done. I mean, I'm going to have people back a second time, a third time, a 10th time. There's just so much we can mine that's just provide the insights into how the business really works, you know, for the, I keep telling people, we thought it was a risk to start this because it's long form content for thinking people, right? I'm not afraid to confront, very controversial issues. You know, the story you started with, right? There could be people, they log off right as soon as they hear that first story of what I told you in Utah, right? That's not okay. That's going to be their choice. But for people who want to get the real world, how it works in the real world, this is the PhD program of how to be an empowering leader in our space. And it's because of people like you and all of the people who have graciously agreed to chop it up with me. So one last time, I say thank you, and please give a hug to Abby and the kids.
Thank you so much. I will. Again, it was an honor. Appreciate the time.
All right, for everybody watching, peace, love, and unicorns.